No BS, how do you buy real estate with no money of your own? Particularly, how do you buy commercial real estate? I have done many commercial real estate deals with no money out of my own pocket, and that is the topic of today's video. Whenever we're looking at a property, okay, I like to think of a property, you know, I'm a great artist, right? I'm better at math than I am art, that's for sure. When we're looking at a property here, let's say this is a rental property, I really think about this in terms of a square bar. And this is what we're gonna call the capital stack, or we'll call it the cap stack for short. Let's say that this was a $100,000 house, okay? Now, what we're gonna do for most people is we're gonna go get a bank loan for 70% or 70,000, and we're gonna have to put in our money, which is the down payment, or the 30%, right? That's how most people think about this. Oh, I'm gonna go buy a $100,000 house, I'm gonna have to put $30,000 down, or if it's an 80% loan, I'm gonna have to put $20,000 down. However much it is, that's how most people think about it, okay? Now, the truth is, guys, is whether this is a house or whether this is a commercial property, this exact formula works the exact same, okay? But what I really want to show you is there are multiple ways to not put any money down, okay? So the first way, and if you hear, Pace Morby talks about this a lot. I think Pace is awesome. Number one is called creative financing, okay? Okay, now within creative financing, there are a couple different ways to do this. Creative financing effectively says, hey, you know, this whole formula here, let's get creative with it, right? Let's do something outside the box. So here are the different ways to do creative financing, okay? You have subject to, okay? Here's how subject to works. So we'll call this subject to. Let's say that this house on the top here, and I'm just gonna draw this out real quick. Let's say this house is worth $300K, okay? So $300,000. Let's say the owner of it bought it in 2020 and it was really, you know, at the top of the market. They bought it for $330,000 and they put 10% down. So if we look at their capital stack, when they bought it for $330,000, if up here was $330,000, then they put in, this would be $33,000, okay? And then they would have gotten a bank loan for effectively $297,000, right? That's the bank loan. Well, as the price went down from $330,000 to the $330,000, here's what happened, is their green up here completely got wiped away. Now the capital stack includes no equity, none of the owners own money, okay? So let me ask you a question. If the seller were to take this property and if they were to list it on Zillow with a realtor and they were to sell it for $330,000 because prices have gone down, and let's say they need to sell because they're moving, their job requires them to move. If they were to go sell this, they have to pay 6% on this amount, but they still owe the bank the $297,000. Okay, so $300,000 times 6% is $18,000. Okay, so that equals $18,000. So if they were to go sell this house for $300,000, then it'd be $300,000 minus the $18,000. It means that they would only get, how much would the seller proceeds be? The seller proceeds would be $300,000. 300 minus 18 minus 297. What does that math come out to? It comes out to negative $21,000. The person selling this house would have to pay $21,000. Nobody wants to pay $21,000 to sell a house. So what do you do instead? What is subject to? It's when you come through here and you say, hey, instead of buying this house from you, you know, and paying you off and paying the loan off and paying a realtor and everything, let's do this off market, right? So if you want to learn about off market, I got a video that I did a couple weeks ago. It talks all about how I do off market deals to find situations like this. So what you would effectively do is you go to the owner and say, hey, instead of paying the bank off, instead of paying off this $297,000, I'll buy this deal from you for $300,000, but I want to keep your loan in place. I am buying this deal subject to the loan in place, and I'll just start taking over the payments. So that's how you get in this $300,000 house for no money down. You might could even say, hey, I'll do it for $297. I'm not going to do it for $300,000. I will just take over your payments and I'll pay for the attorney's fees to get this deal done. That is the first creative financing way. If you have any questions about that, let me know. I'm happy to answer that. That's the first way to get into a deal with no money down, okay? Now, the next way to get into a deal with no money down is through what we're gonna call owner finance. Let's move this up here. Okay, cool. So the next way is owner finance. So let's say that seller owns this house, and let's say they currently owe the bank no money at all on it. So they are 100% in the green. All of this is equity that they have. Let's say they're old, they've been renting it out. They bought this property 20 years ago. They want to sell it because they're tired of just like managing it themselves. They're tired of whatever it is, dealing with renters, whatever it is. And this could be, again, residential, commercial. It doesn't really matter. You can go to this person. You can say, hey, listen, I'll buy this property from you for, let's say, $500,000. Okay, let's say the property's worth $450,000. Hey, I'll give you a $50,000 bonus and I'll buy this property from you for $500,000 on the conditions that let's say this is the seller's capital stack. Let's say that you're wanting to build your own capital stack. You come in here and you say for $500,000, right? Remember how we had a little green slice at the top, which was your down payment? Let's say we don't do that. I'm gonna buy this from you, but you're gonna finance all of this. I'm gonna buy this 100% on debt. And now you gotta make sure that, let's say that these payments on this are, $3K a month. You have to make sure that you're generating at least $4K a month so that you can net positive $1,000 a month of cash flow, or whatever your requirements are for how much cash flow you want to have a month. But when you're talking to somebody, and the big key here, guys, is not to focus on this. The key here is to know when you're talking with a seller who is in this position. When are you talking with somebody who has this? Because this is only possible when somebody has full amounts of equity in their property, right? If this person, for example, if this seller didn't have this, if this seller had instead, if their capital stack, the seller's capital stack looked like this, let's say they had here, and let's say, on this $500,000 property, they had $100,000 of debt on this property, then they couldn't really own or finance the whole thing to you, right? Because they're gonna want to pay off their loan, so they're gonna want at least $100,000 down from you. That's what most people are going to want. Does not mean that that's exactly what has to happen, because you can get creative and you can actually say, hey, you finance the $400,000 to me here, finance this to me, and let me take this amount over subject to. So you can actually mix and match those two. It's a little bit more difficult, it's a little more intricate, but you can do it. But the big key here is that there needs to be a large majority of equity here. I would say at a minimum 50%, if not more, for owner financing to even be an option where you don't have to do owner financing and sub 2 in conjunction, okay? The third way that you can get into a deal via creative financing is a combo, okay? So what a combo is let's say we're talking to a seller who has a property and a capital stack that looks like this. Let's say it's very standard. Let's say that they owe the banks around 70%. And so again, we'll call this this total here 100,000 just to make the math easy. So let's say they owe the bank 70K and they have $30,000 worth of equity in it. Okay, very standard situation here. What we're gonna do is we could come into this situation and say, hey, okay, you won't let us subject to this, so that's not an option. Maybe what I could do is I could buy this from you. So we're actually going to transfer all of this out, and your capital stack is going to look like this. You're going to buy this property from them for, again, the same 100,000 or whatever the math works out to be, and this is going to be the same. So you're going to go to Bank of America, wherever, and you're going to get a first loan from them, but you're going to ask the owner to transfer their equity over into what we call a second mortgage, okay? So this is a second. So the second mortgage is effectively this money they had stays in the deal. You're not paying that out of your pocket, and we'll just label this as yellow. So you owe, in this case, you owe $70,000 to Bank of America, and you owe $30,000 to Old Seller. Okay, so you're making 2 payments every month. You're making this one for $1,000 a month, and you're making this payment here for, $300 a month, or whatever the math comes out to that you work out. For a total debt payment, you're making a total debt payment of $1,300 a month. Okay, but you have 2 different loans. So this is the combo loan situation, and that's how you can do it. There's a lot of different ways to do that. So there's a lot of different ways inside the creative financing world where you can actually go forward and mix and match subject to owner financing, combination between traditional loan and non-traditional loan, okay? Now, I want to give you another one. So this strategy is going to be number 2, investors. Let me delete this out real quick. This is a whole different field all in and of itself. Totally different strategy. So the first strategy that we have here is just, we're going to call them debt investors. Okay, so again, going back to the capital stack, what we're going to have here is we're going to have somebody who owns a house, and we're going to buy this house for $100,000. Okay, now we're going to go again to Bank of America. We're going to get a 70% loan or whatever it is for $70K. But this $30,000 doesn't have to come from us. This $30,000, again, just like in the last example of the combo, can come from the seller, or it can come from somebody who just wants to lend us money. This could be a personal loan. There are places like, I know American Express extends personal loans. I know that you could even do things like you could get Amex through a personal loan. You could do, you could do Amex through a credit card. I know I can take $30,000 off of a credit card. A lot of people can. You could also do a HELOC on your existing house, right? You could do a HELOC. You could do a business loan. There are a lot of different ways to get this debt where you can use the down payment that's required comes from one of these sources, right? The down payment for real estate doesn't always have to be cash sitting in your bank account. It's about how can you get access to those liquid funds. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. You just need to open your mind and look for the different opportunities to get access to capital. And I actually have another training, which I'll link here, which is how to get access to business credit at 0%. That you can use to help you buy your first real estate purchase. Okay. The other way under investors here is equity, right? Equity investors, that's your rich uncle, right? That's somebody you met at the country club. That is somebody who you met at a real estate investor meetup who wants to invest. That's the people who you're on Facebook Marketplace, or you're on a Facebook real estate group, and somebody says, in search of a deal in your market or whatever. These are people who have cash, looking for deals, don't have deals, want to put their money to work. So again, when we look at like a capital stack situation, when we have a house and we have this, what we're going to do again is we're going to go to the bank and we're going to get a 70% loan. I need to fill it in a little bit higher, but we're going to have this amount, and this 30%, again, let's just label this so we're all on the same page. 100,000, we're going to have 70K, and then here's where this is going to come from. So we'll have you, and we'll have Mr. Moneybags Investor, okay? So here's the deal. In this 30K that's needed, this investor could put in all of the money, right? And for that, they put in 100% of the money needed right here, but you brought the deal. So y'all may work out an arrangement to where this investor gets 50% of the property profits, and you, for bringing the deal, gets 50% of the property profits. Now, you don't own the whole thing for 0%, but you're still in a deal for 50%, and you didn't have any money in the deal. You just had time and sweat equity and energy in the deal, right? So that'd be one way to do it. Or, you could say, for example, that maybe you need $30,000 and maybe you don't have $30,000, but maybe you have, maybe you have $5,000. So you put in the 5K and they put in the 25K, and you guys go on to own the property. You could own it 75, 25, right? there's a lot of different ways to do this. There's so many ways, and I actually have a couple videos out on how to structure deals with investors. I'll link those in the top right now. But the biggest opportunity, without a doubt, is getting really good at raising equity dollars. If I had to tell you, hey, I'm looking for a way to scale my real estate, I need to raise a lot of money, I need to do deals with no money. All of these up here, if we think about all of these different strategies, subject to owner finance, combo, debt investors, all of those are non-scalable ways to grow your portfolio. And what I mean by that is you have to run into the right deal with the right seller, with the right motivation, with the right equity, with the right mindset in order to achieve those different ways. Not so much on the debt, you just are only going to have access to so much of that capital. But whenever we think about the abundant opportunity, there are trillions of dollars sitting out there that people want to invest, okay? Doesn't mean you can just go raise trillions of dollars in your first year, but the point is that is the most abundant opportunity, is to raise money from equity investors, and you can still get into deals with no money by doing that. So I hope you guys found this video valuable. If you did, if you want to learn more, if you're kind of like, wait a second, my mind was just blown, or if you're like, wait a second, not really sure still how all this works, I'd highly recommend you get my books, read them. You can get the physical off Amazon, or you can listen to audiobooks free here on YouTube. Absolutely free. I want you guys to be able to do that. If you enjoyed this video, if you liked it, do me a favor, like, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend. I would really appreciate it. In the meantime, be great. I'll see you in the next video.